Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I'm very excited about this segment of the program because I've actually had the opportunity to talk to some of the esteemed panelists, and I think you're really going to get a very serious and insightful exchange. Before I begin, let me just say that I know that you've had a lot of options on your Saturday, and I'm glad that you're here being involved in this very important topic, which is mentoring our people.
Talk about the differences between a personal mentor and a career mentor, and maybe some of the pros and cons of that being the same person.
There are formal mentoring situations, and then there are informal mentoring situations, at least in my experience. For me personally, having spent 38 years or so at ExxonMobil, we had a very formal mentoring sessions from a career development standpoint. More formal pieces in place were more experienced individuals working behind the scenes like line intelligence and other folks to make sure that his entry into the company was there. And to me, those work very, very well. They're done all the time. We talk about his career, and although I'm off the map in terms of getting a paycheck, I'm still talking to Michael Intelligence and Elijah White and Janice Payne and all of those folks that are still in the system to make sure. So I think both are important. I think you use them at different times and they complement each other.
The advantage, as you pose the question, would be if someone has both formal and informal, I think we get to know the person a lot better, and the mentoring and advice one could offer probably has greater range, force, and effect and impact because you know them, kind of personally and professionally. And I guess the challenge there would be to make sure that commitment is something that can be sustained.
It becomes really important to find that mentor within the organization since we don't have a formal process for that. One of the things that I find often, people don't want to ask someone to be their mentor. And so we have to reach out, and the mentor doesn't have to look like us or, necessarily work in our department. We have to see who is it that we think has a great track record for working with people in the organization.
In this multicultural, multiracial society that we live in today, our mentors, our coaches come in all ethnicities. And to me, once again, it's about connecting with that person that can take you farther faster and being able to leverage that relationship regardless of gender or ethnicity.
You mentioned the difference between a mentor and I think you said a person of support. I can't remember the exact phrase. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Let's say you desire to be a vice president. It may not happen at that company, but there are people there who they literally take you under their wing and they help you map out what the next steps are going to be. Sometimes your mentor is the person that you're just learning the landscape with your mentor. They're there, they're the caring person, they're doing those 6 C's that we talked about in the first session. But that sponsor this is the person you're saying, this is the job I want, how do I get there? And your mentor, you're using your mentor to help you gain those skills. You're using that sponsor to help you gain some of those other relationships. And sometimes your mentor can also be your sponsor. But you want to have folks in your life. I think one of the things that happens is we expect one person to be everything to everybody, and they can't be that. And so it's sometimes important to figure out what role someone can play to help you reach your ultimate end.
Personal board of directors, can you each talk about what type of people or what characteristics you look for in comprising your own boards?
I want folks to tell me the truth. I want to be able to go to you, Carl, like I did when we were talking through an employment situation. Carl, tell me the real deal. You know me. You know the job opportunity. Is it a fit? I look for people with character. I look for folks that I have observed in some cases and watched the individuals that they surround themselves with. The character is important, and I also look for within that somebody that has the integrity and strength enough to tell me the truth if I'm going down the wrong path.
One of the things that's interesting in my board of directors is I really look for diversity even in terms of age. Because one of the things that's so important is as I become more senior in my role, the people who are coming along behind me.
I agree with both of their comments, and probably the other thing I would add for my own self, and it's taken me some time to get comfortable with this, is that that board is going to change over time, and people will transition off of that board and onto that board, depending on where I'm at in my career, what my needs are, and also what I can give.
Who you would want on your board and how to get there, what the purposes of having them there may be. I'm interested in hearing a little bit about what the goal, right, of that board may be for each of you kind of individually. So with that collective unit, right, where are you ultimately trying to go? Like, what is the ultimate goal of each board?
So that board initially for me was a board that just opened up doors and made me see what I was bringing to the table was a lot more than just I could write a ticket, I could shoot a gun, and I could take you to jail. And then, as I moved forward in my career and started to have some successes, then it was much like she described earlier, which is, now how do I start to get sponsors to help move about the organization? I worked at Warner Brothers for about 5 years, and I wasn't promoted there. I was a director of corporate employee and labor relations, and had what I felt were great successes, but I watched people around me promote like crazy and move into other divisions. And what one very honest person told me is, you need to leave. At least for me, and I think for many people in their careers, you'll find it's much more evolutionary than it is. At 21, you set a target that you hit at 31, that you hit at 41, that you hit at 51.
So I'm closer to retirement than I am to, kind of climbing the corporate ladder. So today I'm building relationships with people who are going to help me set up that, whatever that process looks like, 5-6 years from now. I want those people to be part of my board.
I actually have, I think, multiple boards. People that I go to as subject matter experts, kind of depending on the situation. The litany of folks that you will develop, if you would, over your careers, your lifespan, I think will actually surprise you the number of folks that you can go to access information.
So, kind of a follow-up question on your last statement. How do you approach someone and ask them to be a mentor or in your board of directors? What are some of the best strategies that you've seen, and then maybe some personal examples?
One of the things we have to be careful of, I think, is when we ask people to become part of our board of directors, if somebody's going to spend their time with me, they're going to invest in me. What am I going to give in return? I want to know that they're going to take whatever they get from me, they're going to use it in their life, they're going to share it with other people, they're going to, either talk about it or they're going to use it in some way that's going to help benefit a greater good, bigger than even the relationship that we start.
I would add, as we talked about the C's connection.
Social media is your friend. It's an easy way to stay connected to people. Back in the 70s, we did not have all those tools to help us, stay in touch. But now, you have lots of great ways to appropriately stay in touch with people. You can be connected to them on LinkedIn, or you can join groups on LinkedIn. A great way. I've had people send me emails and say, hey, I noticed that we're in the same groups on LinkedIn. Would just like to connect with you. We may have some things in common. Just getting those points of connection for yourself.
My question for you all, at some point, I know you all have had to mentor people, so is that a struggle you all have, ever endured along the course of the way? And if so, how did you deal with it? And, what advice would you have for me to be able to just embrace that more and not be so caught up in the fact that I don't feel like I have so much to give, because I feel like I'm still at such a young age.
Embrace that piece of the equation, which is the fact that I think for myself, I learn through others, And so what I try to do in a mentoring relationship is to share both my successes, but more importantly, my failures. But I like to share my failures because not only do I learn from them each time I relive them and talk about them, but I think it also helps others understand, what those pitfalls can look like, but also, more importantly, how to recover from them.
I was first generation college in my family. I had 3 other siblings that were coming behind me, so I totally get where you're coming from. I grew up in Buffalo, New York, and I was the first morning anchor for the NBC affiliate. I did the morning news, so there was a lot of pressure to be something I didn't know how to be. And at that point, I agree with absolutely sharing your failures, but I also think that it's important to say to people, you know what, I don't have all the answers.
What is the best path to mentor at-risk youth?
What I've seen work effectively is exposure and access. And what I'm getting at there, when I worked at Warner Brothers, we've had a relationship with an organization called A Place Called Home. And it was in the middle of South Central in gang territory. And when they came, it was still to this day, it's amazing to me, when they came and made the pitch to the studio to get them involved in the mentoring program, they told us that 70% of the kids in their program never saw an adult go to work. They never experienced it. So their goal, the simple goal of this program, was just to get their kids to see people at work every day. That's it. That was the end game, because they felt like if you just gave them exposure, so they saw something different, they would realize it doesn't have to be what I'm growing up with today. But I still remember the first young man I partnered with was, he was in gang territory, he was trying to stay out of the gangs, and, but he was having some trouble, but he hadn't had a criminal record yet or anything, but he was right on the edge, and we would just have some very candid conversations about making the right decisions and this, that, and the other. But the amazing part was, he was a computer guru. And so what we did was we got an opportunity to work at the studio for the summer part-time in the IT department. And then one thing led to another, and he joined the military. Now he's in DC working in computers in the military. But it was just that exposure and then access, and all of a sudden he realized that there were possibilities outside of the realm of what he was experiencing.
I work on a board, actually it's Hill Harper's Foundation, which is totally geared toward working with at-risk youth, and it goes back to what Larry said about giving them positive examples that Hill gives of his time over the summer to make sure that these kids that are being defined at risk are shown positive examples as follow-up when they go back into the community.
So has it ever been a concern in regards to it being a fit in regards to taking on a mentor relationship, or have you just accepted anyone who has asked for to be mentored? So
I don't know. I can honestly say that I have never turned down anyone that needed assistance. Now, in the process, if I figure out that you are not willing to devote as much time and effort to this as I am, yeah, I will do that. But for individuals who are willing to put in the work, I'll be there for you. But the minute that you exhibit to me that this becomes more of a one-way, that you're taking more than I can afford to give, because if I'm giving you way too much time, I'm probably missing some other person.
I don't initially turn people down. However, I'm at the point where I'll ask enough questions at the beginning to determine if this person is really serious about being mentored or if they just want something from me.
I had an interesting experience when I worked with a place called Home. After Chris, I had another mentee after my 2 years with him. And that particular mentee, after I got to know him a little bit, turned out that he had some sexual identity and transgender issues that he was working with and dealing with. And that, again, I couldn't help him with that. But I also didn't want to terminate our mentee-mentor relationship. Fortunately, I was able to go back to the organization, and they were able to give him resources. And then they just basically gave me some buzzwords to use as those issues would come up, so I could steer him to the right resources, but kind of keep that separate from our relationship. And that's kind of what I did. And, the best I could do was give him resources there to stay available